Hi everybody, Nick Fisher here, Registered Dietitian with CoreLife of Bel Air. Thanks for joining me today for Cooking Up with CoreLife, and today we're going to talk about knife skills and just some basic techniques just to help people feel a little more comfortable in the kitchen. So before we get started, I just want to remind everybody that you can email or call us to get scheduled for your telehealth visit to meet with your care team, and to remind you that you can still track your progress on the remote patient monitoring app and the CoreLife app. So let's get started. Number one, I like to teach knife skills to a lot of the cooking classes I do and just different groups I work with, because sometimes I find people are just intimidated by a kitchen knife. And if you're scared of using one of the most basic tools in the kitchen, it's going to make cooking way more stressful and way more daunting of a task. So basic things, a basic chef knife. This is, I think, probably like $20, $30. It's just a basic chef knife. I do have, fancier ones that, I like them a little bit more, but they're all basically the same. The big thing is you have to keep them sharp. If you get a dull knife, it's more dangerous because you have to push harder into the food to cut it, and that's when things roll or you slip and other things like that happen. So a sharp knife is definitely a much safer knife. And having one that isn't too big either. Like this is a really big one. So if you're not comfortable with something that big, you don't want to have that as your main kitchen knife. So as you get more experienced, you'll probably feel more comfortable with a larger knife, but you really don't need to have one. So let's also take into account other things to think about when you're cutting things. I'm going to move the camera down so you can see it. A larger cutting surface I like because I can cut more things quicker and less cleanup, but more importantly, a damp towel underneath it is very important to keep it from sliding. Without that towel, when you're cutting, this cutting board will move. So a damp towel underneath is very important. The next thing I like to tell people is, number one, you hold your food like a claw, because if you do that, the knife, and you don't pick the knife above your knuckles, that acts as your guide for your knife. So whenever you are chopping, you move your fingers back, but you don't extend like this to hold food. That's how you cut yourself, because your fingertips are out. Use your knuckles as your guide, and you keep all your tips back. That way, it's like the claw, and it keeps you from cutting your hand because it never gets under the knife. Another thing I like to teach people is holding your knife. Don't hold your handle back here. That's just not really a lot of control. If you hold it more firmly near the front and maybe even grip like this, you're going to have a lot more control. And using not the tip of your knife either, because think about how much wiggle room that is. If you're all close together like this, you have a lot more control going on. So that's how you can kind of keep yourself safer with it. You don't need to be fast when you're cutting things. Take your time, and you're not in a competition trying to impress people with your knife skills. So the other thing I like to tell people is make what you're cutting manageable and comfortable for you. So if a larger carrot or one that's rolling around is scary, cut it, and if you can, take one side, and now it lays flat by cutting off the edge of it so it won't roll. That's another way to help yourself be a little safer with it. I'm also going to show you the way I was taught to mince onions, because big chunks of onions aren't always everybody's favorites, but if you mince them, it makes it a lot better. So this onion I cut it in half, kept the root end intact, and I took the skin off, so it's ready to go. So here is how you kind of mince into smaller pieces. The root end is over here. Take your knife, and you're going to just apply cuts down in, but you don't want to go all the way through because the root end is still back here. What you're doing is allowing it all to stay together. So it's a little bit easier to cut. And sometimes you can go like this too, carefully, and cut into the onion. This allows it to be kind of ready, like almost like a bloomin' onion. But now when you hold it together with knuckles back, and knuckles is your guide and your claw, when you cut it, now you have a minced onion. So now your pieces are nice and small, and it won't be such an oniony kind of dish. So those are just some very, very basic knife techniques and safety things I like to teach people, because if you can do all those, you can do a lot of prep and cook most anything, and you don't need to get really fancy or anything like that. So, thanks for coming by. By all means, watch our other CoreLife video channels on YouTube, and try out some of these knife skills. If you need to get a good knife, go buy one. But by all means, use these to help keep you safer. All right, thanks for coming by. Stay healthy, and I'll see you next time.